Ladies and gentlemen, this is Seth here, and it is Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, here at the Fifth Dimension Radio Studios in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and you know what time it is. 10 Cent Beer Night, the official sports show of FifthDimensionRadio.com, and we're filming here on May 4th, Star Wars Day. Not the fondest day for Kent State. You know, we'll be nice about that. It is an important date in their history and whatnot, but I like to keep it positive and remember it's Star Wars Day too. Cinco de Mayo on the 5th here, but this is for the 6th. But again, anything between the 4th and the 6th that's happened we don't know about, and I bring it up because by the time you hear this, there will be Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semis between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons will be finished, and who have won, I don't know yet. But we'll talk about it. I attended Game 7 of the first round last night with Toronto Raptors at the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers finished them off finally. And my thoughts about that. First of all, Cavs have won 5 straight Game 7s, including the one to win Old Glory, the 2016 NBA championship. I think that was the first one. Yeah, because then they won 2 Game 7s in 2018. And then, they won Game 7 in 2024 in the first round against the Magic. So, yeah, that's their 5 in a row right there. So, it did start with Old Glory there. And that is tied for the second best Game 7 winning streak. The best was 10 in a row by the Boston Celtics in the 60s. So, we're talking some prime era. And I know they've had some multiple good eras. But this was one of their top. I mean, this was like Bill Russell era. I'm going by memory. Yeah, I believe so. But that's when they won championship on championship on championship. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about that time. So they're tied. I think there's a 4-way tie for second. I'm going by memory here. Going back to this first round, the last 10 Cent Beer Night we talked about. The Cavs were tied at 2. They win Game 5 at home. Game 6 was a fight. They kind of blew it. I'll admit it. You know, we're over it now because of the result of Game 7. But going back, Game 6 was one they should have won, and they were they didn't do the little. We talk about the little things in sports that matter. That was the problem, is they didn't do the little things right, the turnovers and everything, and down the stretch, Evan Mobley getting the ball knocked out of his hands, out of bounds, but he was the last one to touch it, which set up for Toronto's possession and R.J. Barrett's game-winning 3, what it was at the time, and just they didn't play like themselves. They didn't finish. They came back, but they did, and you have to finish the playoffs. And their backs up against the wall, Game 7 at home. Did not have the greatest start. They did end the first quarter tied. That was the second quarter tied. In the first quarter, I think they were down by 5, but they were down by much more at a time. And everybody that needed to step up, stepped up. Of course, Jared Allen being the MVP of the game. Usually the player of the game, but we chanted MVP at the game because he turned it. He looked like the all-star center we've been waiting to see this whole playoff series. He showed up. Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he had 20-some points, but, I mean, he didn't do much more than that. James Harden did a little bit more. Mobley got in foul trouble, so he couldn't do much more than he wanted to, but it's set up for Jared Allen to have the monster game he had. I think it was, I'm going to pull it up here, 26 points. Let me hear. He had 22 points, 19 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. And in the steals were crazy. I mean, because they had James Harden had 3. He passed up Larry Bird in playoff steals. And I forget. I think Bird ranked 9th or something. Dean Wade had 1. Max Strus had 2 steals. Strus had a good game too. 12 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Rebounding, Mobley had 7, but Harden had 6. Dean Wade had 4. Jalen Tyson had 9, and Max Strus had 8. I think that was the biggest takeaway I take from Game 7 for the Cavaliers, okay? Is I want to see that defense and rebounding every game, not just through the playoffs. Not if they potentially make the finals. We're not there yet. We'll one day at a time. I'm talking about next year, too. I'm talking about every Cavs game to the day I die. I want to see that defense in that rebound. I mean, that we have been looking for that consistency. I mean, we knew this was a more offensive squad, and they need to work a little more on defense. You play defense and rebound like that, you're going to be tough to beat. It was impressive. And even offensive rebounding, not just defensive rebounding. Offensive rebounding was impressive. I won't forget, okay, the one thing when we attended Game 7 yesterday, me and a friend of mine, which, by the way, they're 2-0 when me and this friend have attended Game 7. So, we might have to attend more Game 7s if that ever happens. We took the walk of shame a few years ago. We attended Game 5 against the Knicks, and the Knicks won and advanced. So it was like going down the escalator, knowing that it was over, the season was done, all that. And we wanted to prevent that walk of shame for yesterday. Now, obviously, it's out of our control. Our feelings are toward whatever they do in the court. But the one thing we kept saying about that series, and it was brought up again against the Magic in round 124, and it was brought up against losing to the Celtics in round 2 and 24 and losing to the Pacers in round 2 and 25. Where's the rebounding? Where's the consistent defense? Okay? It's like the light bulb went off. Enough was enough with Toronto. They showed up, and they shut them down. If they're going to go anywhere, make this season special, they have to do that every game. No exaggeration, okay? And as for Toronto, I think some people were like, well, they forced a Game 7. This is a team that they should have won in less games. Give Toronto the benefit. First of all, let's talk about the logic here. The seeding. There's a realistic chance you're going to have a Game 7 in the first round of the playoffs, it's probably going to be seeds 4 and 5, which it was here, okay? That is the first matchup in round 1 where the playing field is pretty leveled. All right? Toronto was one of the best defensive teams in the league this year, and they showed it. Cavs were limited on what they could put up around the perimeter. And it was because they shut them down. They were on them like, look, I wanted the Cavs to copy that and do the same thing with them. And finally, Game 7, we saw a little more of that. And we did see, I'll say at the end of Game 6, quarter 4 and overtime, we did see more of that. I know they left R.J. Barrett open on the 3 that he hit to win the game. But for the most part, we saw them get on everybody. And that's how you can't be too late. And that was one of the things we've been talking about that specific, not just for the Cavs, for the NBA, for 10 some years. When the Warriors were at their prime and they were going off and they were the Cavaliers' biggest threat, there was a bar back in the day I used to go to once, twice a week, okay? And after work, and I would catch the West Coast games. Sometimes it was the Cavs, if they were playing Utah or whatnot. But if not, they're playing the Warriors, because that was the big team. TNT had them, not TBS, but ESPN, Fox Sports had them. And I couldn't tell you how many times I saw the Warriors beat up on a weaker West Coast team, and how many wide open threes the Warriors were able to just take. Not even just make, just take. Because it was just like, it's long range 3. How should I say? They say low percentage shot, but remember, these guys are pros. So I kind of looked at it as, oh no, if they're capable of shooting from out there, it's 50-50. Okay, it's either going to miss or make. And you could go get all technical, go, well, the average NBA player makes 33 or 40%. Look, in that one game, it could be 50% plus if you let them take it from wide open so many times. Okay? And that's why they say defense wins championships. And if you defend better than the other team, you kind of have the advantage there. We didn't, back when the Cavaliers went to 4 straight championships, back when, and they won it all in 2016 and whatnot. Obviously, the defense did good enough, but could they have done better? I think so. You go back to, they didn't have, they had Mozgov, they had Tristan Thompson, but they didn't have a dominant big man. We, as Cavaliers fans, we talk amongst ourselves, and we remember when we had Andre Drummond here, and we said, had we got him a couple years earlier, they probably win at least one more finals, because the Warriors did not have anybody down low that could hog the boards, that could guard or play offense that well under the basket. Andrew Bogut was the closest thing, and he kind of faded away at the end of 2016 there. If you go back, he joined the Cavs for literally a few minutes and then tore his ACL and his career was over, which was sad to say, but that was the closest the Warriors had to a dominant center that could play at both ends of the court. You look at when the Bucks and the Suns were in the championship in 2021, 22. I'm going by memory here. It was after the COVID championship. And one of the reasons the Bucks won, other than, Giannis being so dominant, their defense was very, very good. Helping limit Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. And that Suns team there. And that's how they won their championship there. I mean, you can even make a case for the Thunder and the Nuggets championships. And even the Raptors. When we talk about, you can talk about Kawhi Leonard, but when they got Marcus Gasol down there under the basket, that was a game. And who did they beat? The Warriors. Because the Warriors that was the one guy they could not consistently contain was Marcus Gasol. Kawhi Leonard, rightfully so, was the Finals MVP, but Marcus Gasol would have been probably second place in that voting, because again, they could not contain him. You got to have those big guys down under the basket, and they got to show up. And, Jared Allen showed up for the Cavaliers yesterday. For the Raptors, and you look at their defense and how they got pushed to Cavs to Game 7 and whatnot. A lot of good guys at the perimeters. They did have Jakob Poeltl, but on their bench, they had that one rookie that does. I'll pull his name up here. Not rookie, I shouldn't say. He's a second year. You have him under the bat. He did well, but his height only was. Let's see, was it Sheed? I'm gonna pull it up here. Murray Boyles, good player. Yeah, 6'7". He is a rookie. He is. I apologize there. He is a rookie. Kind of Julius Randle type. Type rookie. So he does well under the basket, but again, he's also only 6'7" compared to these 7-foot players. He's not going to necessarily out-rebound them there. He would have to position them better. It's kind of, you hear me and Bob talk about Enrique Freeman that played for the Akron Zips. Similar situation. He's probably about 6'5", to be honest with you. He played power forward, but against some of the bigger teams, he wasn't producing the same numbers as he was against some of the MAC teams because of the size of some of the bigger players they played. They out-rebounded him, We got these two big guys here, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. They got to be playing better than some of the smaller guys. They got to be the better rim protectors there. They called them the two towers there under the basket. And finally, we saw both of them step up at points of this first round and help lead the way to get them back to the conference semis. Now, okay, that's over with shifting focus here. We only got a couple minutes of this segment here. Cavaliers will play the Detroit Pistons, who just got off a 7-game series. They went to Game 7 against the Magic. Pistons came back from a 3-1 deficit and won. And as of this morning, the Magic did fire their coach. Pull that up real quick there. Jamal Mosley has been fired after blowing a 3-1 lead in the first round of the playoffs there. So Cavs will play the Pistons. My early prediction here, Cavs by 6. Okay, and I have them going to the Eastern Conference semis. Here's why. Okay, just one name: J.B. Bickerstaff, head coach of the Detroit Pistons. Give credit where credit's due. He's done a very good job this year. They're the first seed. They avoided 3-1 deficit. They blew out the Magic in Game 7. Played very, very well. Okay? Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Jarrett Allen did not forget about what went down with J.B. Bickerstaff. And some of the media might sugarcoat it and be like, oh, it's not as bad. No, when they played Detroit, they played them hard. Detroit won a couple games this year against Cleveland because Cleveland was very banged up. Cleveland left that last game in Detroit that they lost in overtime and said, you know what, we matched up with these guys healthy. They shouldn't be a problem in the playoffs. They said that in the locker room after that loss. They said, you know what, these guys, they didn't look at them as anything special, being the number 1 seed. Okay? And that is going to be the reason. They're going to see him on the sideline. They're going to make sure they're going to do everything in his power that he doesn't advance on them. And I know Atkinson needs to do it too. It'd be a bad look to lose to the old guy. All right? But here's the thing is, it did end sour. And they're going to do everything they can. And I think I do believe what the players are saying. They matched up better with them than they did Toronto. If Toronto would have advanced, there is a chance Toronto edges out Detroit because of their defense. Toronto's issue was, okay, you didn't have Brandon Ingram, who there was one game he really showed up, the rest he didn't. Toronto's thing is I like Scotty Barnes. He's a very, very good player. We don't know if he is the top of the line player. We don't know if he is a team leader or if he's a good sidekick. Yeah, and that's some of the debates we have with some of these star players. And it's like one we're having with Evan Mobley, for example, right now. All right? They wanted to make him like the guy, even over Mitchell. Mitchell said that a year ago. Mobley's not producing like that. So where does this playoffs will reveal a little bit more going into next year what his role will be going forward. But is he a sidekick? Or could he be a prime player, The Detroit does with Cade Cunningham. And that's where I'm going to lead off our next segment here, because we're out of time. But we are going to get more in depth of this. But I have a good feeling about the Cavaliers in this matchup against the Pistons. I did forget to tell folks at home, Bob is on vacation in Myrtle Beach. That's why he's not here. We have the decorations here from the playoffs. So we continue to talk about the NBA playoffs when I come back here. That and what the Guardians did this past week when they called up first overall pick Travis Bazzana. That and more. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to our second segment of 10 Cent Beer Night here on Fifth Dimension Radio and WAOH-TV. I am Seth, and just as I was saying before our last segment, Bob is out on vacation in Myrtle Beach. I hope he's doing well. Hope he avoids the Gators while he's golfing out there, but he's enjoying his time there. Currently, while we're filming here in Ohio, it's beautiful out there. It's like 70-some degrees, sunny. We can't get used to it. It's going to be mid-50s to early 60s all week and rainy. So this is going to be time to just sit down and watch some playoff basketball here. I just talked about the Cavs and Pistons series here a little bit. Pistons come into this series with Cade Cunningham, their first overall pick, guy that was picked 2 spots ahead of Evan Mobley in that draft. You have Jalen Duren, who is a great center for the Pistons. Tobias Harris, who the Cavaliers tried to get multiple off seasons and couldn't get. He dropped 30 points in Game 7 against the Orlando Magic. Caris LeVert, former Cleveland Cavalier, is also on the Pistons. So a guy I wanted the Cavs to get for a while there. His name is now slipping. He used to play for the Heat. Good 3-point shooter. I'm gonna pull that up here while I'm talking about that. They got him in the trade. They had a decent trade deadline. The Pistons did, adding role players and whatnot. Duncan Robinson. Yeah. And Ronald Holland the second. They have Kevin Herter, the good 3-point shooter. Isaiah Stewart, decent big man there. Aziar Thompson too, the other Thompson brother that did not get drafted by Houston. This one went to Detroit in that draft. So, and then the long history between the Cavs and Pistons. This is the most, I should say, the toughest Pistons team the Cavs have played in the playoffs since the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals Pistons. All right, the Cavs did play the Pistons first round of I think it was the 2018 playoffs. It was 2015 or it may have been 15. Excuse me, and swept them. Just walked right all over them. It wasn't even close, and that was it. That was the Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin era of the Pistons, which was short lived and didn't work out. So now we have Detroit with Cavs former head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. We'll go on against the Cleveland Cavaliers here. I think they tied the series at 2, if I remember correctly. The Raiders. If not, I think Pistons may have led 3-1. But 2 of those games, Cavs were very, very beat up, and they still kept it close. So this is a fully healthy Cavs team there, which was a relief to see on the scoreboard yesterday at the game when they were giving their injury report, and under Cavs it said none, and the place did cheer and a clap for that. So always a good thing to see, because all year we've seen injuries out the butt, and it's just been consistently. It's a toss-up. Which team's going to come out today? How are they going to compete against this team? This team is doing really well, or they're cold, but are they going to beat the Cavs because they're so injured? And we had saw that all year, so it's good to see fully healthy Cavs team show up and then just find the right rotations to make it work there. So around other parts of the NBA here, Knicks beat the Hawks in 6 games, and in the 6th game they won. I'm going to look back at it here, but I think it was by like 50-some points. It was something. Yeah, I mean, they were up 72-22 in the middle of the second quarter. The Knicks were. Just an absolute beatdown there. Gonna pull that here. 140-89. So they won by 51 points. That's crazy. It is, And Cavs did beat Cavs beat the Heat by 55 last year in the playoffs. So they were talking about the top best beatdowns in NBA playoff history. So the Cavs were up there in the top 5 there. They were talking about that on ESPN there. So Knicks will advance, and they'll play. This is the shocker. If you told me I was going to be reading this to you right now a week ago on the last 10 Cent Beer Night, I would have told you I don't think so. I don't see it. All right. The Knicks are playing the Philadelphia 76ers. Yes, that means the Boston Celtics have been eliminated. They got eliminated Saturday night, Game 7. Sixers came back from a 3-1 deficit. Joel Embiid went from injured to being healthy and went to being normal Joel Embiid against them. He got his revenge from a few years ago when the Celtics beat them. And then admitted, they beat our... He didn't say but I'm going to say but just for TV reasons. They beat our butt like they always do. Well, this time, Philly turned it on Boston. Okay? Boston sat out Jason Tatum, who was out most this year with, that torn Achilles he had, that he suffered from last year's Eastern Conference Finals. He comes back a little early. He plays well, but as a precaution, they're like, it's better if we sit you. We try to win without you, and then we'll bring you back in round 2. Well, it didn't happen. And so it's going to be the New York Knicks at the Philadelphia 76ers. I am giving Philly the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving them credit where credit's due. This team was pretty tough the entire time Embiid was hurt. They had their games where they weren't. I mean, Cavs beat them up a couple times this year. But with Embiid in the mix, they are a very different team. Give me Philly in 6. I think they're going to beat this Knicks team is obviously very talented. There's no denying that. But under Mike Brown, and I get it, they were the 3rd seed this year. Okay, so they did very well in the Eastern Conference. But they went in kind of waves. You know, there was times where they were hot, and there was times where they were really, really cold and were playing like not up to their potential. Not to where it should be. And I think, you know, the matchup with the Atlanta, something clicked. And I know Atlanta won those 2 games there, but they're like, okay, we're not going to let them win another one. They won game 5, and then they won game 6. And that was the end of it there. I think the fact that Philly beat a tough Boston team, they're going to be riding that morale. They're going to be riding that, trying to think of the word here, but that, they're just going to have an overabundance of confidence right now. There's another word I was thinking of, but I'm going to say that. And with them having one of the top rookies in the league, you have Maxey. If Paul George is healthy, along with Joel Embiid, it is going to be a very tough team. All right, momentum is what it was. They're feeling that momentum. That's the word I was looking for. So I'm going to go with them. They're going to beat the Knicks in 6 games here. In the East Coast there, you had the Oklahoma City Thunder sweep the Phoenix Suns. Hey, credit where credit's due. Phoenix Suns made the playoffs. They weren't supposed to. They won. They did enough in the play-in. They showed up. They played as tough as they could. OKC sweeps them. Lakers beat the Rockets in 6 games. Okay. You talk about which fans are more mad between the Magic, the Sixers. I won't say the Hawks right now. A lot had happened with Atlanta. But between all the teams that were eliminated, I think the Rockets are the more upset. They came in very hyped this year with the acquisitions of Kevin Durant on the team and a couple of the other stars that they did bring in, and then the rookies they drafted and everything. They looked good on paper. And LeBron and the Lakers, it wasn't, how should I say it? They didn't run through them. They did lose 2 games, but they did much better even without Luka Doncic. And the Rockets, by the way, never had Kevin Durant in that series. He was hurt the entire time. But it was kind of a smooth first round for them. Outside the 2 they lost, the ones they won, they really had it together and they looked good. I mean, and one of the things, I watched some of Game 6. The announcers were saying about LeBron and that Lakers group, okay, was how little they were turning over the ball. I think they said on average in these wins, maybe even their losses, they turned it over maybe twice. That's brilliant in the playoffs. That was the Cavs' problem in first round with Toronto. Too many turnovers. James Harden alone had 8 in one game. Lakers only had 2, I think had 2 at Game 6 when they closed it out. That's why they built a lead and they were able to keep building it because they weren't turning it over. They were taking good shots. The ones they were making, if they missed, whatever. But they weren't turning over the ball, and that's what the big difference was. They made the majority of their shots, too, I should add. I should say whatever, because you miss the majority of your shots, you're not making anything, you're not building anything, and it's a whole mess. Lakers will advance this and play the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'm going to say OKC in 5 games. I'm going to give the Lakers one. I think Luka comes back, and one of those games Luka comes back, they win. OKC's just too tough. You know, I think I like the way LeBron was playing. I like the way Bronny was playing in the first round. He looked great. They didn't play really much of the other games, but the earlier games they played, him and he did well. Austin Reeves is back. So I think the Lakers will put up some fight, but OKC is just that good. Give me OKC in 5. This was the big... You want to talk about the shockers in the NBA, okay? I would put the Sixers beating the Celtics number 1 on the shocker list, okay? I would put how the Lakers manhandled the Rockets as 3. This was number 2 here. The Minnesota Timberwolves beating the Denver Nuggets in 6. The 6th seed being the 3rd seed. Not just the 6th seed being the 3rd seed. The 3rd seed Nuggets having Jamal Murray and the best player, in my opinion, in the NBA, Nikolai Jokic. And they could take over any game at any time. And you have the Timberwolves where Dante DiVincenzo, their backup point guard, tears his ACL. He's out for the year. All right, and he might be out. He might not be back to January, February maybe even. Okay. Anthony Edwards, their star player, was out all but the first and half the second game. I'm going by memory here. It might have been half the third where he went down. He's expected to be back in the second round. Okay. They didn't have their top player and one of their best backup point guards, and still manhandled the Nuggets. I will say manhandled. There was a couple games there. They absolutely outplayed them. I'm watching Minnesota like I'm watching Philly right now. I'm taking you more seriously after this first round. You got something going. I like what you're doing. You have my attention. You have my respect. I want to see what else you got in you. How they beat the Nuggets could not be overlooked. It was impressive. They're going to go on, and this is where it's interesting. They're going to go play the San Antonio Spurs, who swept the Portland Trailblazers. I get similar attitude with the Trailblazers as the Suns. Credit where credit's due. They weren't supposed to make the postseason. Now, I had the Trailblazers as a postseason threat this year. The majority of analysts did not. Here they are. Didn't quite have enough. Young team. They're going the right direction. Okay. So you have the Minnesota Timberwolves at the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs were 2nd seed. Okay. I'm going to say it. And these guys were in the Western Conference Finals not too long ago. I want to say it was last year, too. I'm going by... Yeah, I believe so. I believe they were in the West. If they weren't, they were in the year before. But they've been red hot in the playoffs the past couple years. I'm going to take the Minnesota Timberwolves in 6 games against the Spurs. Here's why. Now, some of you might say, oh, Wembanyama. Stephen Castle. The Spurs are on fire. They're playing great. They are. They're going the right direction. They have a brilliant blueprint for the next 5+ years. If they can keep everybody. And if they don't drastically change the roster. They have a great thing going. In the NBA, the older teams advance. I was telling the friend of mine that took me to Game 7 yesterday of the Cavs game, that when the Warriors beat the Cavs in 2015 finals, that was a rarity because of how young the Warriors were. They had some veteran presence, but they didn't have a ton. It was a bunch of younger guys. All right? The Cavs were an older team than them. That was a rare team to be that young and win the finals, okay? The finals are won by the older teams. Look it up. Look up all the history. Every era, it doesn't matter. The finals are dominated. And the playoffs are dominated, I should say, and the finals are won by the older teams. The Timberwolves, you have Rudy Gobert. Anthony Edwards has been there much longer than Castle and Wembanyama have. You have Julius Randle, who's been there, done that. McDaniels is coming to his own in the playoffs. It's the age, the experience, in the moment. They're going to outplay the Spurs here. And you got to remember, this is not Greg Popovich Spurs anymore. You have a different... He's done a good job. I don't remember his name. Honestly, on top of my head. I do apologize. Can look that up right here. But he's done... Mitch Johnson. Okay, younger guy. Let me pull up. Let me see how old he is. He's not that old. He's 39. He's not even 40 yet. He's done an incredible job. You got an older coach on the other side. You got older players on the other side. That's going to be the difference maker. So, if I'm right, your conference finals are going to be Cavs versus 76ers and Thunder versus Timberwolves. If I'm right. We'll play it one game at a time. By the time you've heard this, all the game ones would have already happened. Now, the other thing I want to add before I'm done talking about the Cavs, I know I've eaten up 2 segments talking about the Cavs, but I mean, this is playoff basketball. This is NBA play, and this is the hottest thing we got going on right now. As far as the Cavs go, what will it take to win in 6 games? They have to win 1 on the road. And I'm predicting they're going to win one of the first 2 on the road. Okay, they have to. They didn't win any in Toronto. You have to win on the road in the playoffs. You got to figure it out. They won all 4 of the games they won against Toronto were at home. Okay, you don't have home court advantage anymore. You got to win on the road. So I think they go 1-1 going into Cleveland. I think Cavs go up 3-1, and then Detroit wins Game 5 in Detroit. It is 3-2 now, and Cavs then win in Cleveland. So that's what I think is going to happen there, as far as the Cavaliers go. So there we go. We ate up a bunch of time talking about the Cavaliers and whatnot. I did see Wembanyama did win Defensive Player of the Year, so Evan Mobley has been dethroned by that. I didn't hear any of the other awards as of yet. I did hear Clutch Player of the Year. I think Stephen Castle won that one. I'm going by memory. If he was wrong, I apologize. If I'm wrong, excuse me. Hiccup. I apologize. But the rest of the awards should be announced too. But this is the anniversary since 2009. So this is, I'm going by memory here, 19. Got to do some math. 17-year anniversary when LeBron James won his first MVP. And they did the press conference in St. Vincent St. Mary's High School. And there was little Bronny, and there was baby Bryce. And you had younger mama Savannah there. And it doesn't feel that long ago. But here we are. And that Akron family's growing up in front of our eyes. And LeBron's still in the playoffs. So, I mean, I don't want to think of that situation, that hypothetical of an LA versus Cleveland finals, but I don't think it's going to happen regardless. But that would be something, wouldn't it, if that happened. But gotta take a break. When we come back, then we're going to talk some Guardians. I got some Brown stuff to talk about. We'll talk about all that and more. Stay tuned. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our final segment of this first May edition, May 2026 edition, I should say, of 10 Cent Beer Night, the official sports show of Fifth Dimension Radio.com and WAOH-TV. Thank you for joining us today. We'll have Bob back next week from his trip in Myrtle Beach. Until then, we're going to have to talk baseball without him because, he is Baseball Bob. But he took most of the sunshine with him down to Myrtle Beach, and again, he said the local minor league team is not playing down there, so I can't say he took the baseball down there with him. But anyway, Cleveland Guardians went 3-3 last week. They lost the first series to the Rays 2-1. They lost the second series. No, excuse me. They won the second series to the A's in Sacramento, 2-1 there. Excuse me. They lost. I should really rephrase that. They lost to the Rays 1-2. They beat the A's 2-1 there. After the first game against the Rays, later that night, they could not get runners in from scoring position, which cost them the game. Okay, they lost that first game there 2-3, so they could have won. Okay, they finally pulled the trigger and called up first overall pick of the 2024 Major League Baseball draft, Travis Bazzana, second baseman there. And so that was a big deal. They call up the top prospect, one of the top in the league. And again, that first overall pick, left-handed bat, was compared batting-wise to Grady Sizemore when he came in. And he doesn't get his first hit for a few days. He was in the lineup the very next day in their next loss to the Rays there. But it was, I think it was Saturday here. Let me look. I'm going to give you the right information here. Yeah, It was Saturday against the A's. They beat the A's 14-6. Okay. He gets his first base hit. It was a single, but it was with like bases loaded or guys second, third. He knocked in 2 guys. So the very first hit he gets is the very thing that they were missing. They wanted a hitter that was going to bring runners in and scoring position. His first hit exactly does that there. They did lose to the A's 7-1 on Sunday, but after that first hit, he got 2 more. So it was an overall successful first weekend for Travis Bazzana there. Slow weekend over, despite some of the bigger wins for the other guys there. I did see DeLautner did hit his first home run in a few weeks. Jose Ramirez did not have the greatest week there, even fantasy-wise, too. He's on one of my fantasy teams, and he just kind of disappeared last week. Just was not the greatest week there. They're 18-17 in their first American League. They will play at Kansas City in this 4-game road trip, so by the time you hear this, they'll be wrapping up Game 3 as we speak. And then after that 4-game road trip against the Royals, they will go back home this weekend and play the Minnesota Twins. So you will have both Cavs and Guardians games at home this coming weekend in Cleveland. And then they will stay at home until all throughout next week. And our next 10-cent beer night, they'll be playing the Anaheim Angels, who are playing better than me and Bob thought they would right now. So right now, as the standings are, Guardians are tied for first with the Detroit Tigers, who have the past 2 weeks have played much better baseball. Now they're both 18-17. A game and a half behind them is the White Sox at 16-18. Yes, the White Sox. Royals come from out of the basement. They're 2.5 games behind the Guards, and 3 games behind the Guards are the Minnesota Twins at 15-20. So even though the Twins are in the basement, it's still so early. They're only 3 games behind. This could change up again really easy by the end of the week. So Guards got to be on top of it. Your rest of your Major League Baseball, 2 early standings going into May. In the American League, the New York Yankees are 23-11. A game and a half behind them are the Tampa Bay Rays. 7 games behind them are the Blue Jays as they start rising up the ranks there. Orioles are 8 games behind them, and then 10 games behind them at 13-21. Starting to lose a little bit of grip now is the Boston Red Sox. Boston, it's a very peculiar situation. Again, blew up the whole coaching staff. And it came out because Phillies fired their manager recently. Phillies called Alex Cora, who was fired by the Red Sox, but he said he wanted to spend some time with his family, so he's already a millionaire, from his time with the Red Sox and being a player, too. And declined being Philly's new manager, so Philly promoted somebody there. I can look up real quick who it was. I did not plan on talking about that. Don Mattingly, former manager there of the Marlins and a few other teams. He got promoted from the bench coach to being the head manager there, but they did try to talk to Alex Cora there. So Red Sox, it's a sad situation there. Out west, despite losing the weekend series to the Guards, the A's are in first at 18-16. 2 games behind them are the Rangers. 2.5 games behind them are the Mariners. 4.5 games behind them are the Astros, and 5.5 games behind them are the Angels. Angels are 13-22. So, again, anything can change by the time the Guards play the Royals, the Twins, and the Angels there. In the National League, real quick, Braves are on top of the National League East, 25-10. 8.5 games behind. They're starting to build a serious lead in this division now. 8.5 games behind them are the Marlins at 16-18. 16-19, 9 games behind are the Washington Nationals. Again, 2 teams people did not think that would be in the middle or higher order of this division. You have the Philadelphia Phillies at 14-20 and the New York Mets at 12-22. That division's a mess. The other close division, we've talked about it all year so far, the National League Central, and this has changed up drastically since we last talked at 10-cent beer night. This has moved around like crazy. Now in first place, currently as we're filming on Monday, so things have changed by the time you hear this, but 22-12, the Chicago Cubs, first place. 2 games behind them, tied at 20 and 14, are the Cardinals and the Reds. The Cardinals here, I mean, just playing great baseball. Jordan Walker, their prospect, is playing so much better, hitting 307, 10 home runs, and 27 RBIs. One of the top prospects a couple years ago got called up and down. They got sent up by the Cardinals, sent back down. They wanted him to adjust his batting. He is now playing like the player they think he can be. Brewers are in fourth at 18 and 15. Pirates at dead last, 3.5 games behind, 19 and 16. So everybody's got a winning record in the National League Central right now. And, I mean, if it were to end today, the wild card in the National League would be almost all NL Central aside from the San Diego Padres. It's just crazy. Just crazy right now. In the National League West, the Los Angeles Dodgers are 21 and 13. They went 2 and 4 last week against their opponents. They lost the series against the Marlins last week and against the Cardinals. So these younger, hot teams that people are like, oh, they're going to cool off, they're going to disappear, they bullied the 2-time defending champions. Okay, a half game behind the Dodgers now is the Padres at 20 and 13. 4.5 games behind them are the Arizona Diamondbacks. 7.5 games behind them are the Colorado Rockies. And 8 games behind them and dead last, 13 and 21, are the San Francisco Giants. I would have told you by now that if you told me which team is 13 and 21 and dead last in the National League West at the beginning of the season, I would have told you it was the Rockies. Here we are, the Giants, struggling. So, Dodgers handling their own, and every team officially now, since the Dodgers lost so many games last week, has lost 10 or more games. Now, it was going to happen. It's a long Major League Baseball season. It was about to happen, but it did take the Dodgers to almost May to be in the double-digit loss column there. So, that's your Major League Baseball update real quick. I'm going to give you an update I want to talk about the basketball transfers in NCAA. I want to pull that real quick, and we'll start with Ohio State. We had mentioned about Andrija Jalfik going from the Kentucky to Ohio State. We mentioned, too, about Justin Pippen, son of Scottie Pippen from California, Ohio State. Since then, Ohio State's added Jimmy Williams, guard, out of Dayton. Will be transferred to Ohio State, 3-star kid. And then point guard Curtis Givens III from Memphis to Ohio State. As far as Ohio State players that transferred out, Devin Royal is going to Villanova. We mentioned Colin White going to Akron. Tayson Chapman's going from Ohio State to Utah. That's a big loss on their part. It's a 4-star good scoring guard there. Gabe Cupps will be headed to Illinois Chicago Flames. That's where he's going. That's a surprising one. There, Matthew Krojcic, 4-star guard out of Ohio State, has not decided where he will go as of now. Going to the Akron Zips, that there has been some moves made there. We mentioned about Colin White from Ohio State, Tajay Stavitsky from Incarnate World Cardinals, going to Akron there. Xavier Wilson, point guard from Kansas State, is going to Akron there. Since then, they've added 2 more. Ty Pence, small forward out of Illinois State. Small forward is going to Akron now. And then Buddy Hammer Jr. is coming from North Texas to Akron. Second athlete to transfer from North Texas to Akron. North Texas quarterback who was Cam Ward's backup quarterback in Miami U is going to Akron this fall. Okay, so here's what I like though. So you might not know those names there. let's see, Colin White, Buddy Hammer Jr., and Ty Pence are the small forwards, all at least 6'6". That's what I like there. They also added a guy from Western Michigan, Burton, who's 6'11". So they're adding size. That was one of Akron's weak points, was they had great score beds, they had great ability to move the ball. They were being out-rebounded because of size. Now they're adding size, and that's what I like Dustin Fox's new team is doing recently. As far as players that have moved out to Akron, we mentioned Sharon Young's going to Western Kentucky, and Eric Mahaffey's going to University of Cincinnati. Bowen Hardiman hasn't decided yet, but Rich Briscoe is leaving Akron for the Rider Broncos. That's an interesting transfer there. But yeah, so I really like this transfer class for Akron. Ohio State's got a good group going on too. It's going to be something to watch out for. But as far as Akron and moving on from John Gross and all that, yeah, I think that this is a good group here. I really like this first group for Dustin Fox, and they're still adding. And I would like to see Hardman stay. You get a good veteran shooter from the perimeter and everything. I think that's going to help him out a lot. Other news, because we only got a couple minutes here, with the Browns. We're not going to have a ton of Browns talk until July going forward here. But, you had heard me talk about, before the draft, about potential trade talks with the Dallas Cowboys and all that. And there almost was something. It didn't happen in the draft. They did a trade with the Chiefs instead, but now it's coming out that when the Browns were at 9, Cowboys did offer an interesting trade. And it was the Browns' 9th and 24th pick for the Cowboys, 12th, 20th, and a 5th rounder. So Cowboys were going to move up. They were willing to move a little bit down in the first round of the draft. And I think it was for everybody to still get their guy, because the intent was, Fano aside, Browns really wanted Concepcion in the 20s. Okay, they were sweating bullets that he wasn't going to be there when he landed with them at 24. They jumped right on him and grabbed him there. The Cowboys wanted to make sure they got their guy. I don't know if it was if Caleb Downs was the guy there for 9, if that's who they wanted. It's a great pick. I think it's the right pick. I think Lawrence, their other pick, would have been there at 24, so that's why it didn't bother them. They were willing to roll the dice there and then give up another 5th-round pick, but they wanted to guarantee their first guy, and that's what. Well, Browns declined it, and it actually worked out in their favor, because they declined it to guaranteed Fano. All right. They rolled the dice, took the risk to not get Concepcion at 20, but they got him at 24 instead, which is good. And then for Dallas, they ended up getting the guys they wanted. And then at the same time, it's set up for the Cowboys to help the Eagles screw over the Steelers for Malachi Lemon, because the Steelers were about to pick Lemon, and the Eagles jumped ahead there at 20 and did a trade with Dallas and selected him with the 20th pick ahead of the Steelers. So that was kind of cool to see there. As far as the Browns, I mean, there's been some rumors and whatnot, and I'll tell you, you're gonna hear me say it before. I'll say it plenty of times, because it's the most annoying thing right now. I am tired of the Browns media. It's not the Cleveland media. It's the Browns media. There's the difference. You don't hear the Cavaliers having this talk. You don't hear the Guardians media having this talk. You only hear the Browns. And there was a comment about, like, somebody asked him how close were they watching for Ty Simpson, the quarterback that was taken 13th overall by the Rams. Would he have been considered 24? And they admit he was on the board. He was on their list. But they really wanted Concepcion at 24. And that walking away with the right O-line and the wide receiver in the first round was the goal. It wasn't quarterback. That's why I predicted, had Simpson fell to them in the second round, he might go there. Because I know they liked him a lot, and I knew Monken had a kind of relationship with him. and the media's eating it up as, oh, see, they would have picked him at the 24th. That's not what Andrew Berry said, okay? Now they're saying, oh, Watson's got the lead with the first quarterbacks. Guys, he's switching up the reps. Shedeur had in the first practice most times for the first reps. The next practice, he gave it to Watson. He's changing it up. Nobody has a lead right now. And if there is a lead, maybe it's Sanders, who went 3 and 4 at the end of last year, was a Pro Bowler. And don't give me all the Pro Bowl technicalities. They could have picked somebody else. Okay? At the end of the day, I'm already... the rookie draft hasn't... not draft. Rookie training camp hasn't started yet. And I'm already sick and tired of the Browns media. All right? That's kind of how I ended things today. Because we're going to hear more Brown stuff. I'm hoping these guys stay relevant here in the playoffs, because they're going to get all the attention to them as they should. And I would hope the guards would be second, being underway in their season. Because let's say the quiet part out loud right now. I love my Brownies, but what have they done for us the past couple years? Not very good. They've stressed me out and given me headaches. Now, I do love this draft. I think it was a compliment. Tom McShay of ESPN said that this was the most promising draft he's ever walked away from. Ever in his career was the Browns draft what they walked away from in this past couple weekends ago. I think that was a compliment. Well, this guy, he's not right all the time, but he's not wrong all the time either. And I really like what they did. I think they took a step up, but now we got to see it. It's going to be about, let's not overhype a season until we see the wins and whatnot. I'm sure we'll get more Browns news and everything as it comes along. But right now we're fresh off a great rookie draft. You have the guards in first place. You have the Cavaliers advancing to the playoffs. Let's just enjoy the moment here. Let's not just poke the bear just yet. So that's just my opinion. I got to go, guys. I really appreciate you guys tuning in here, whether it was on Fifth Dimension Radio, YouTube, or WAOH-TV. I appreciate all of you. Next week, we'll have Bob back. We'll talk about the Cavs in the second round. Maybe even talk about Eastern Conference Finals. Not try to jump the gun, but you never know. We'll talk about where they're at, though, at this point in time. We will talk about the guards and how their week went against their division rivals. And we'll talk more about probably some Akron youth sports, too, as the women's lacrosse team did lose in the finals to UMass, but I'm wondering if they're going to get a tournament bid there. For the big tournament. We'll see. And then I did see softball's the #1 seed for the first time since 1998. So we're pulling for the girls there to win the MAC championship there. So we'll talk about that and more. All kinds of stuff to talk about. Stay dry. It's going to be raining around here, these parts. Enjoy, because better weather's on the way. So get ready and be good to each other. And all that being said, go Cavs. Let's get them.